Ladies and gentlemen, thieves and crooks, hoodlums of all ages, I am the comic outlaw. Yes, coming to you live and loud. And you know where I'm shifting from multiverse to multiverse. And I did a poll on your multiverse's Twitter, and I had a vote. I put up a few categories I wanted to see what people would vote on, and there was a tie. And for me, a tie sucks. So I've decided to do both. Now, the ones that won ended up winning was top horror and the top Justice League. So since I had to do both and pulling double duty, and I also made them a top 20 instead of a top 10 because that's the way your boy rolls. I always put a little more kick in. You know, you get a little more pep in my step, if you know what I'm saying. Now, let's do this. My first one is my top 20. Justice League members Unlimited. That's right. I'm going to use the world of Batman the Animated Series, Superman, Justice League Unlimited, and Batman Beyond. That whole universe. But I'm going to mainly stick to the Justice League characters all the way up to Justice League Unlimited because there were so many. These are people that have been a part of the team. They've been shown in the cartoon, or they've joined for a short time. A very short time in some cases. And I'm plotting all the way up to number 1. And we're going to start at 20. And I just put him on here because he was just a temporary member, Lobo. He made his appearance in Hereafter, where Superman sort of vanished into another world. I highly recommend watching it. It was a great scene between Luthor and Lois Lane when they think that Superman's dead. Very interesting. And I just love Lobo's character. I love the out there psycho biker, ass kicking main man. And I highly recommend the Lobo comics if you're an adult, of course, because they're not for the kiddies. Read Superman if you're below the age of 18, because Lobo ain't got nothing for you until your flower starts to bloom, if you know what I'm saying. And the Lobo was a great character. I believe the voice actor that played him, he was the older brother from Everybody Loves Raymond. Just went full tilt on it. I love the character. Whew. And the next one we're going to be doing is a character I don't think gets enough credit. I think he's a very dangerous character. I've met a few evil versions of him in different multiverses. He's in one of the Injustice gangs that I happen to be a member of. He's usually a goody-goody. His name is Metamorpho. Metamorpho made his appearance, I think, in the first season of Justice League, the first and the second. He was an experiment. He was a guy that was experimented on by his father-in-law Stag. He turned him into like this creature that basically mimics different elements at a time. Like he can mimic air, kryptonite, which is very, very cool, steel, gases, water. Very versatile character. I keep wondering why he doesn't get more spotlight time. He's made an appearance in Batman Brave and the Bold when they did The Outsiders. I think he's a wonderful character, and I really don't think that he gets his due. Now another one, and like I said, I love these cartoons, and I do have a sense of humor about certain things, and I love Deadman, Boston Brand. For a man that can't be seen, he seems to say a lot, doesn't he? Former acrobat, murdered, spirit came back, God came, a god, came, made him like a spirit for karma, and he's looking for his killer. He possesses people's bodies, and he's able to talk through them. So it always ends up being a funny situation. He usually ends up zapping someone like Batman or Superman. He made an appearance in Justice League Dark. Very, very good cartoon. I highly recommend that one. And Boston is always entertaining. And in almost every iteration that I've seen him in, Batman Brave and the Bold, for example. But in this one, he does make his appearance, and it's very sad because he possesses Bruce's body and forces Bruce to shoot someone. Like I said, watch the cartoons. Watch the cartoons. You will not be disappointed. Better than Justice League action. Now, going up on the list, I'm going to have to count 17 and 16 together. And you're going to know why right now. The Shining Knight and Vigilante. Shiny Knight is 17, Vigilante 16. And the only reason the Vigilante's higher up is because I love the actor that plays him, Nathan Fillion. He plays the voice for Hal Jordan in Green Lantern. He was in Firefly. He was in Castle. He's in The Rookie now. I recommend watching all of that. Bring back Firefly. Both characters often play off of each other really well. There was an episode, The Patriot Act, where they really had their time to shine. Vigilante is a cowboy. Shiny Knight, of course, is a knight from Merlin's court that rides a flying horse with a sword given to him by King Arthur. And Vigilante is a bike-riding cowboy. Now, an interesting thing is that they were both in the Justice Society of America, an old comic book series that ran, for a while until DC got rid of it. Bring back the JSA. Bring back the JSA. But these guys were original members back in the old days. And I do not remember what happens to Shiny Knight, but I remember Vigilante ends up in the pre-crisis or pre-final crisis. Yeah, there's a crisis that resets everything now every 5 years, so it's kind of hard to keep track. It's getting on my damn nerves. I mean, they waited 30 years before the first restart, and then they sort of fixed everything in Zero, and then they wanted to do Rebirth, and now they're doing another Rebirth. I mean, damn, how many rebirths are you gonna do? It's ugh. Keep it consistent, boys. Keep it consistent. Now, Vigilante ends up retiring, starts a hamburger place, of all things. Very interesting, very cool. Of course, the character, Nathan Fillion, brings him to life. He's made an appearance in a few of the other cartoons, as has Shiny Knight. So, moving on. And I know she's a little low on the list, but as far as the cartoon, I felt that she only had a few moments to shine, and that was pretty much it, which is why she's so low, and that's Black Canary. Don't get me wrong, I love Black Canary, especially in the comic books. I always thought that she was one of those kick-ass and take names, beautiful blonde with a destructive voice, siren call, sonic scream. But yeah, like I said, she's only had a few appearances, and she always seemed like she was just there with Arrow. I would have liked to see her more in a more solo role, although I loved her feud with Huntress. It was cool, but she always felt more like a side character. I think she got more attention. For example, on Batman's Brave and the Bold, I think they flushed her out a little bit better on that one. But as far as the Justice League, cartoons, I'm going to put her lower on this list. That's why she's number 15. Moving on. 14. The Vixen. Jon Stewart's other love interest. She has that animal totem. Gives her powers of different animals. And she's cool. She plays a great foil for Jon, because Jon's kind of a geek. Jon's one of my least favorite Lanterns. We'll get that later. I do love her personality in this. She has that flirty, kind of badass style. She is a little bit of a manipulator, and she has one of the best lines in one of the cartoons when her claws come out. She's like, "Come with it then." I mean, that's right up there with "Have at thee" or "Hulk smash." Come with it then. Wonderful line delivery, I must say. All right. Now, here's another one that's a little lower on my list, but like I said, I felt that he didn't have the impact that he had on other series later on. I don't think he even had the same impact in the Super Friends, as sad as it sounds, even though they made him all serious and gave him a hook hand. Yes, I'm talking about Aquaman. He was more of an arrogant jerk in this one, kind of a dick. To be honest, I liked the character. I didn't think he was utilized enough, but I understand they had so many to work with. So, Aquaman's lower on the list, number 13. And number 12, and you're probably wondering why, but let me explain, Huntress. I think Huntress had more of a role in the cartoons than, say, Black Canary or even Aquaman. Question Authority was one of the best cartoons. I loved her Double Date. I loved her relationship that she had with Question. I thought it was so wonderfully strange that it made sense in the most insane way. I thought that was so cool. I love that she's a badass, that she won't hesitate to kill if she has to. And I've always enjoyed the character Huntress, and I'm glad they put her on the cartoon. I was super stoked when I first saw it. I still am. Moving on. Zatanna. Oh my god, that girl. Ooh, beautiful magic woman that just. If you don't know, she's a magician, usually the magic user of Justice League. She says all her magic spells backwards. She has to talk backwards for her magic to work. Her father was a legacy. He ended up dying. He passed it on to her. She's a powerful sorceress, a beautiful woman. She made her first appearance in the Batman animated series, if we're going to chronologize that, and she's appeared more and more later on. Back then, it didn't show her magic. Later on, it did. There was an episode. Oh, what was it called? This Little Piggy, or something like that, where Wonder Woman gets turned to a pig and Batman goes looking for her, and she's the one that helps him. She's always like Bruce's friend, and in a lot of ways his confidant, especially in matters of relationships. It's interesting to watch. Like I said, some of these characters have like a lot of interpersonal relationships, which I just found very awesome. It was very cool because a lot of the cartoons didn't do that as much at that time, and I always thought that was cool that they always had problems with her. They always had different personality quirks that fit with other heroes better than some other ones, and I always thought that was cool. Now, moving on. Green Arrow. Yeah, Green Arrow, he's number 10 on my list, and Ollie's cool in this one. I mean, Ollie's a lot different than the show Arrow. He's a lot more lighthearted, which the comic books made him out to be at this time. Later on, they try to suit it and boot it more to the television show, which I think we already have one Batman. I liked how Ollie, yes, did get dark at times, and yes, he did have a darker origin, but he always had a laugh or a joke or a quip. He was serious when he had to be. And I liked that he was a liberal, and I liked how he was not really the voice of reason, but the other voice, like the voice of the people. I love how Batman selected him for that reason, and that's why he's number 10 on my list. I recommend watching these cartoons. I can't say that enough. If you haven't seen these, go out and see these. Number 9 is The Question. I love The Question. The Question is one of my favorite characters. He wears that blank face. He always has something going on. He's just the ultimate conspiracy theorist that usually ends up being right. Later in the comics, he passes away. Renee Montoya takes up the mantle. I love that too. I thought it was a good process for Renee. A nice step up. Of course, that vanished and then reappeared and then vanished. Everything's in flux right now in DC and Marvel. Settle down, man. Settle down. Yes, but Question, I've always enjoyed The Question. I thought he was great in the cartoons. He always seems to steal the show. Whatever scene he's in, he could play off of Superman. He could be that street level hero. He could be that conspiracy nut. He's just a little bit of everything, a little bit of good and bad. I loved his relationship with Huntress, like I said before, and that's why he's number 10. Or number 9. Sorry, he's number 9. Ollie was number 10. Whew! I got all into The Question. I forgot about the answer. Yes, The Question is number 9. And we're moving on to number 8. Supergirl. Yes, I am Supergirl. I loved her process. I loved how she came up through the animated series, the Superman animated series, how she evolved in Justice League, and how she eventually did her own thing in Legion. I love the costume change, how it started out with a white t-shirt. It became more Superman-like. Her evolution was great. Her friendship with Ollie, Jon Stewart. Like I said, the cartoon really does a good job in bringing these friendships between these totally different characters to life. And I think they touched on that a lot more. And then a lot of the other stuff they had before, like Super Friends, because that was just basically the same guy in different tights going, "We must stop Darkseid." It's just the same thing. Same guy, same tights. I love how her friendship with Ollie just kind of, like, he becomes sort of a mentor to her. And I think that's cool when she goes and joins the Legion of Superheroes. It's sort of a touching episode for Superman. And I'm not the biggest Superman fan, but I understand. It was a good tribute. I love how they followed like canon up into that point, how she joined the Legion with Brainiac 5. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go read the Legion of Superheroes and get yourself educated to the ways of the comic book. Now, moving on to number 7, Green Lantern, John Stewart. And of course, the top ones were going to be the original 7, but it's my personal order. And John Stewart's low on this list because he's okay. I understand why he's there. I like the idea that he's a Marine, but he's never been my favorite Green Lantern. I am a Guy Gardner fan, through and through. Guy Gardner. But John Stewart's cool. I love how he's sort of the strategist. He's kind of the Rock. It was interesting with his relationship with Hawkgirl, and then later on their son, Warhawk, which I might do a show about because I found his character interesting. He was a nice blend between the two. And you can't talk about John Stewart without talking about number 6, Hawkgirl. Shiera from the Hawk world. I love how she was a traitor, how she kind of betrayed everyone. Spoilers! But this show's old, so if you haven't seen it, then blah. I love how she was a good guy, a bad guy, a neutral character. She kind of made her way back. I love how she spent a lot of time out of costume for a while trying to find herself in the Tower of Fate. And if you don't know what I'm saying, I'm going to keep harping on this. Watch the show. Watch the show. Damn, watch the show. I love her character arc. I love how there's a sort of redemption in it for her. The love triangle between her, Stewart, and Vixen is interesting. And it's just really cool. And like I said, the way that these personalities kind of mix and match. But we're moving on to number 5. Martian Manhunter. John Jones. And I believe he's the heart. Like, sort of the heart. More like the counselor, the father figure, the friend. He's been in almost, I think every iteration of the Justice League now I'm thinking about it. All the way from the old days all the way on. He's like a father figure to some, an older brother to some. There was a sad scene where he passed away and he was murdered during the Final Crisis series, and they were burying him, and Batman puts a Choco. It was his favorite cookie. It was like a DC version of an Oreo. And I've always enjoyed the character. I love the man that's playing him on Supergirl. I got to give him massive props for that. John Jones is a man of pain, a man of loss, and he'll do anything to keep this family together. And you got to respect his loyalty, his strength, not just his superpowers, but his heart and his desire to seek justice. Whew, that's Martian Manhunter. Now I'm going to number 4, a light-hearted character, The Flash. Yes, Wally West. And in the comic books, R.I.P. Wally until they bring you back to life. I love Wally West in this. I love how he has a sense of humor. Like I said, Martian was the heart, but sort of, but not really. He's more like the blood, or the muscle that kept it pumping. But Wally was like the soul, the spirit, the happy-go-lucky person. And there's a story in Flash and Substance where he's getting honored, and Batman goes with him, and he takes Darkseid's son. And in a way, he's trying to show Orion why he respects Flash. Because Flash doesn't just use his fists. He doesn't just beat people up. He doesn't come from a place of fear like Bruce does. He comes from a place of hope. And I think that's what Batman respects from him. That he's never lost that optimistic nature. That even in the darkest times, there can be hope. And not just hope from a big, strong man, but from a funny guy that just means well and wants to do well by the people in his city. Just generally a good guy in and out of the mask. That's Wally. He's the type of guy that'll help paint your fence, super speed, come by, eat some brownies with you, have a good time, and then probably save your life from Gorilla Grodd all in the same day. All right, we're down to the top 3, the Trinity. And Superman's number 3. People will probably rank him higher, but he's number 3 here. I think he got more developed in Superman the Animated Series. I always felt that he was the guy that came in and clobbered people. I mean, Clark does have a purpose on the team. He was good in Clash, but then again, he was just fighting someone. The Man Who Has Everything was a great remake, but of course our other 2 people were in that one too, and they made the story as well. like I said, I thought he'd be better in the animated series. He was sort of a jerk, you know, for a while. Not like a jerk, but he's like, well, I can do everything myself. Why should I help? And it took him a little while to get used to the team, which was nice. It gave him a nice story arc. I do love his stuff with Darkseid, especially in Live and Destroyer. I thought that really was Superman's moment to shine, amongst other ones, of course. Moving on to number 2, Wonder Woman, Diana, Princess of the Amazons. And I love the way she changed over the seasons. Like, she didn't like totally do a 180 where she lost her lasso or anything and was wearing white 70s clothes and learning martial arts without any superpowers. You messed up bad on that one, O'Neill. But anyways, I digress. I love the way she sort of evolved, how she became a person of man's world. And I loved her relationship with Batman. I kind of love that will they, won't they vibe that you got from them. And I loved how Diana wanted him, and I love how she was just the one that can set Batman straight. And it always seemed that she knew him a little bit better than anyone else on the team. And I always thought that, like, in this reality, they might have hooked up, because this is considered another reality from the comic book and everything else. So I always believed in my heart that they ended up sort of, like, getting together, at least for a while. And, of course, number 1 on the list, in case you haven't guessed, if you don't know, now you know, the main man, Bruce Wayne, Batman. Hell yeah, Batman. And, of course, the animated series started it all. It got the ball rolling. Bruce is kind of like the leader of the group, the brains of the operation. Granted, he can be an arrogant jerk. He could be stubborn, prideful. He tends to be paranoid. But no man has a greater love for his fellow man. And I think they do a good job in playing every side of Bruce out in this. I love the relationships that he has, especially with, like, Wonder Woman, like Flash, Superman, like all the other characters. They seem to be touched in one way or the other by Bruce's influence. And I thought the cartoon really tied everyone together. And as a Batman fan, it was really good to see that, like, they brought back Conroy, and they really did a great job in fleshing him out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thieves and crooks, my hoodlums of all ages, that is my top 20. Justice League Unlimited. Woohoo! Countdown. And I will catch you on the flip side. Throw me a subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and hit me up if you got any suggestions on Twitter at Comic Outlaw. See you later.